All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into 5 documented historical events where the government's massive, highly funded machinery of secrecy just completely failed. You know, governments keeping secrets isn't some wild conspiracy theory. It's a legally protected, heavily resourced administrative fact. But, and this is crucial, these systems are run by human beings. And humans, well, we make mistakes. So as we go through these events today, we're going to look at times when alleged conspiracy theories turned into absolute, undeniable public record. Let's get into it.
Since we're all critical thinkers and students of history here, we're going to treat this explainer kind of like a modern history 101 seminar. We'll break this down into 4 core modules. First up, medical and psychological abuse. Then, manufacturing war and lies. Third, the global surveillance precedent. And finally, the legacy of truth.
Okay, Module 1, Medical and Psychological Abuse. We're starting our coursework by examining exactly what happens when government agencies actually use their own citizens as unwitting test subjects. Take a look at this timeline. It really highlights the horrific 40-year duration of the Tuskegee syphilis study. Starting way back in 1932, the Public Health Service observed untreated syphilis in black men in Alabama, completely under the guise of treating them for bad blood. But look right there in 1947. Penicillin was widely established as a cure. The study administrators knew this, yet they deliberately withheld the treatment and actively prevented these men from getting it anywhere else. So you really have to ask yourself, with the full weight and authority of the Public Health Service protecting the secret, and with it successfully running for 4 whole decades, how did the truth finally get out?
Well, it ended for one reason. One person inside the system decided 40 years of abuse was quite enough. Public Health Service whistleblower Peter Buxton raised concerns internally for years, and when they just kept ignoring him, he went straight to the press. The exposure caused a massive legacy of medical mistrust that permanently damaged the relationship between Black Americans and the medical establishment. That's a deep societal scar that literally impacts healthcare outcomes to this very day.
Shifting gears over to the CIA's MKUltra program, I want you to consider this number. 20,000. That's the exact number of documents detailing non-consensual mind control experiments on citizens that somehow survived. We are talking about a 20-year program from 1953 to 1973 where subjects were secretly dosed with LSD, subjected to extreme electroconvulsive therapy, and pushed into psychological regression, all without their consent.
But here is the ultimate historical puzzle. In 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms explicitly ordered every single MKUltra file to be shredded ahead of a congressional investigation. So if the order came from the very top to destroy the evidence, how on earth do we have proof of the dosing and the psychological abuse?
This is just mind-blowing, and it brilliantly illustrates the fragility of state secrecy. A routine clerical misfiling in a 1977 Maryland financial archive saved those 20,000 documents. They were accidentally included in a Freedom of Information Act request. I mean, contrast the immense, terrifying power of the CIA with the sheer banality of a filing error. If somebody hadn't literally put a box in the wrong room, MKUltra would just be an unproven, dismissed conspiracy theory today.
Moving right along to our second module, manufacturing war and lies. Let's see how this deception scales up into the realm of global conflict.
Look at the sheer volume here, 7,000 pages. This represents the Pentagon Papers, a top-secret study commissioned by the Secretary of Defense. This massive, sprawling document proved that 4 consecutive American administrations systematically lied to Congress and the public about the true nature of the Vietnam War. And the contrast here is just stark. The public narrative, pushed super heavily by the Johnson administration, was that, hey, the war is progressing well, victory is achievable. But their own internal classified analysis confirmed the exact opposite. They knew they faced an unwinnable deficit, they knew the war was practically lost by 1967, but they just kept sending soldiers to die, because admitting failure was politically unacceptable. Again, we have to look at the mechanics of the leak. How does the most classified, most heavily guarded document in the U.S. government manage to find its way out of a secure facility and land right on the front pages of national newspapers? A senior military analyst named Daniel Ellsberg literally carried the truth out of the Rand Corporation, night after night, and copied it on his daughter's school photocopier. Seriously. This single act of defiance fundamentally shifted the course of history. In fact, President Nixon's absolute obsession with finding leakers after this directly led to the creation of the White House Plumbers Unit, which, as we know, ultimately broke into the Watergate Hotel.
Talk about a massive societal ripple effect.
Okay, now examine this historical record from 1962, Operation Northwoods. The Joint Chiefs of Staff actually proposed committing horrific acts of terrorism against their own citizens. I'm not kidding. They wanted to sink a boat of refugees, shoot down a drone disguised as a civilian plane, bomb their own base, and stage sniper attacks on American cities, all to manufacture a fake pretext for invading Cuba.
Thankfully, President Kennedy read this proposal, rejected it outright, removed the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and buried the document deep in the classified archives. So, how did such a terrifying piece of military history ever see the light of day?
It's staggering to realize this, but this proposed betrayal sat in an archive for 35 years. It was only exposed in 1997 because a careless archivist accidentally included it in a JFK assassination records release. Someone simply didn't read a declassification package carefully enough, and an operation that would have redefined American history was just laid bare for the whole world to see. All right, on to our third module, the global surveillance precedent. We're looking at the technological overreach of 5 allied governments, creating a planetary dragnet. Here we've got another massive disconnect between public statements and classified reality. When a British journalist exposed a global signals intelligence network called Echelon back in 1988, the official stance from the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand was complete denial. In parliamentary sessions, they literally laughed it off as a conspiracy theory. But the reality, which was finally confirmed in 1999 by a European Parliament investigation, was that they were intercepting communications on a planetary scale. If we break down the actual mechanism of Echelon, we see exactly how they pulled it off. Step 1. Intercept the communications via international networks. Step 2. Run it all through an automated keyword analysis. Step 3. Flag the content for human review. They used this for national security and commercial espionage for decades. And the crucial takeaway here for our history students, this system laid the complete operational and legal framework for the modern NSA surveillance programs that Edward Snowden exposed much later. It was the absolute precedent for modern mass surveillance. Let's move to our final module to analyze the enduring historical scars these leaked secrets left on society. Because, as we've learned, exposing a secret is rarely the end of the story. The big picture here is that these aren't just isolated historical blunders. Every single leak generated a massive systemic ripple effect. Tuskegee fundamentally altered public trust in healthcare. The Pentagon Papers literally birthed Watergate and forever changed the relationship between the press and the presidency. Echelon completely normalized global interception, paving the way for the 2013 Snowden leaks. These events shaped the exact world we live in right now. I want you to really think about this quote. Everything on this list was a conspiracy theory until the day it was not. These 5 events remind us that yes, the machinery of state secrecy is incredibly powerful and well-funded, but it's also incredibly flawed. It relies on human beings, and human beings are prone to administrative errors, misplacing boxes, and sudden, undeniable crises of conscience. So as we wrap up this explainer and you reflect on these historical lessons, I want to leave you with a very real, very present-day question. Knowing full well that governments are keeping complex secrets right now, what classified realities are happening at this exact moment, just waiting for a single mistake, a whistleblower, or a careless archivist to expose them to the world? Thank you so much for joining this session of The Explainer. Keep asking those tough questions and always, always keep looking at the historical record.